Hello everyone and welcome to some MiSTer FPGA news. This week we will be talking about a device that lets you use HDMI-CEC to control the MiSTer menu, more SNAC adapters by the MiSTer MultiSystem creators, updates to the TwinBee and Salamander core, and more. Also, check out my channel sponsor MiSTer Add-ons, a place where you can get all your MiSTer needs, things like full MiSTer setups, accessories, I/O boards, and more. Now let's get to the news.
Ranny Snice released several new wallpapers for the MiSTer FPGA. One is based on Sega's Shadow Dancer arcade game. He also released new wallpapers designed for 4x3 screens. For these wallpapers, one is based on F-Zero for the Super NES. There's another for the Salamander arcade game. This game recently had a core release for it. And there's a Super Metroid 4x3 wallpaper. You can download these wallpapers by enabling Ranny Snice's wallpapers in the Update All settings. If you enjoy the work Ranny does, you can support him on Patreon. The next game for the MiSTer FPGA Discord Game Challenge is the Pinball of the Dead for the Game Boy Advance. This is a great choice for Halloween. It's a high score challenge on all 3 tables that goes until November 10th. Greg from Laser Bear Industries recently showed off a television remote controlling the MiSTer FPGA menu via HDMI-CEC. This is a nice quality of life feature if you have your MiSTer FPGA connected to your main television. One of the reasons why we would need this is because the DE10 Nano's HDMI chip has some HDMI-CEC issues that also cause issues with eARC. To make this work, this is accomplished by a device that sits between the MiSTer and the television. The device transcodes the CEC buttons and sends them as keyboard presses to the MiSTer over USB. If you're a SNAC user, that means with this device, you do not need a keyboard plugged into your MiSTer in order to change cores and play different games.
A later post gave more details and shows how the adapter will look like. It is based on an RP2040 chip and the software running on it will be open source, allowing the community to make changes to it.
In addition to the Super NES SNAC adapters for the MiSTer MultiSystem I spoke about last week, Heber is selling adapters for other console controllers and will also release future adapters. On the post, we can see a PC Engine 5-player adapter. There's also a PlayStation adapter that has the RCA plug for light guns. On this adapter, while it does not have ports for memory cards, you can get access to memory card ports if you plug in a PlayStation multi-tap. Additionally, the pins to the memory card slots are on the PCB, so you can modify this adapter to have the memory card ports. There's also a Nintendo 64 4-player adapter, an MT32 Pi adapter for upgraded music on supported cores. An adapter for Sega Saturn controllers is also in the prototype stages. Most of these adapters have a little Easter egg inside. For example, on the PC Engine 5-port adapter, an extra connector is included that lets you plug in the adapter to a real PC Engine. It's pretty awesome to be able to use it on a MiSTer FPGA and a PC Engine. All these adapters will slot into the MiSTer MultiSystem cartridge port, but will also have a micro USB port to connect them to standard MiSTer setups via the user/SNAC port. In addition to these game controller adapters, there is also an adapter for outputting composite and as video. This cartridge is specific to the MiSTer MultiSystem, so it will not work on standard MiSTer FPGA setups. For standard setups, to get S-Video and composite, you want to ask MiSTer FPGA vendors about Mike Simone's YC adapter design. Developer Ranny confirmed that the TwinBee core is in development right now, but the first release may be delayed. Last week, Ranny said that a November release is possible, but it looks like that may not be the case now. But I see this as no big deal because I do prefer developers to take their times when developing. Ranny may also create a patch for TwinBee that bypasses the power on self-test. This will make it quicker to actually start playing the game. Ranny also updated the Salamander core. These are the updates. SB clone for HB MAME MRAs was added, a 3-button input naming error was fixed, and the dip setting reload issue was fixed. There are still some known issues with sprites, and there's a weird PCM playback on the 3rd stage.
What's Ken Making recently released a great video diving deep into the MiSTer Pi FPGA board. He compares the chips used on the MiSTer Pis with the chips that are used on the DE10 Nano and QM Tech FPGA boards. Of interest are the higher latency DDR3 memory chips used on the MiSTer Pi and QM Tech boards. There are also power usage and thermal tests and a lot more in the video, so I highly suggest you check it out.
Taki Uran recently posted a video giving us an update on batch 2 for the MiSTer Pi. He goes over high demand for the product and also tells us about some changes his company is making regarding MiSTer Pi quality assurance. In short, they had a third party perform QA for the boards, and they believed that the required QA guidelines were not being followed. Some of the issues they were having were with some RAM chips not reaching their rated speeds. This was due to some solder problems on the RAM chip. There was also a problem from 2 confirmed users in which the USB headers on the FPGA board had solder balls stuck inside them. This prevented the USB board from properly being inserted. Another issue involved the USB header only having 1 pin out of 4 soldered. These issues are things that the QA providers should have discovered had they followed the guidelines, even if it was a small minority of users experiencing them. So now there are plans to move the assembly and QA process in-house. They've also received the second batch of MiSTer Pi boards, and supposedly the QA factory paid special attention to make sure this batch was properly QA'd. However, Taki said that they are going to re-QA these boards themselves to make sure the company did what they said they would. Unfortunately, this means that there will be more delays for the second batch. I would suggest everyone follow Taki on Twitter because he's been keeping us up to date on everything that's been going on. Core developer Wicker Waka recently released a new test build of an Irem M90 Core. It currently supports Bomberman, Bomberman World, and its various regional variants. This isn't an official release, and at the moment is only available for download from the MiSTer FPGA Discord, so head over there if you want to test it out. Wizzo just posted a major release to TapTo. Now at version 2.0, here are some of the notable features. There's initial implementation of an optical drive reader which allows using CDs on MiSTer to launch games via a USB CD drive. Note that games do not run directly from CDs, they just point to a ROM stored on your MiSTer. The Windows version is now available, but Wizzo tells us it's still in heavy development and more of a proof of concept. It can be used with launchers like Steam, Launchbox, and Flashpoint. There's also new alternate launchers that have been added for Sinden cores, which allow setting a token to explicitly launch a Sinden core variant. To be able to use the Sinden light gun on the MiSTer FPGA, a requirement is using cores specifically designed for the light gun. This update helps launch those Sinden-specific cores. There are also alternate launchers for LLAPI cores for BlissBox users, PWM cores for users who want 24-bit output out of the 18-bit I/O boards, and there's also alternate launchers for the overclocked N64 and PlayStation cores. There are many other updates and bug fixes, so check out the TapTo wiki for the entire list of updates. So that's it for this episode. Please also try to support Sorge, the maintainer of the MiSTer project, and other MiSTer developers and contributors on support platforms such as Patreon and Ko-fi. Their hard work allows us to enjoy this amazing project. I also provided links to all my sources in the description. Make sure to also check out RetroRGB.com to see my MiSTer news videos in blog form and to get more retro-related content. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and this bell icon so you can get notified of future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.